Wired access.
We'll do it live.
Wired access.
Do it live.
Wired access.
We'll do it live.
Wired access.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Wired Access Podcast, where I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. We are a Hurrdat Sports production. To my left, I have Brandon Tiedemann, my producer, but he is way more than just Hurrdat Sports producer. He is also out in the scenes. Speaking of the scenes, tonight the CHI Center is hosting the first playoffs for the Pro Federation Volleyball, where at 7 p.m. at the CHI Center, you're going to have the Grand Rapids Rise take on the number one seed, the Atlanta Vibe. And then at 9 p.m. roughly, obviously time is time, 9:30, you will have the Omaha Supernovas taking on the San Diego Mojo. Once again, our Omaha Supernovas have an opportunity to make history, not only by hosting the semis and the championship, but they have an opportunity to get the championship and win it. We'll see what happens.
See what happens.
Brandon, not many people can say one thing that I want to say about the Supernovas, and you've been a big part of it. You've been a big part of starting something new.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've done some Husker games, you've done some College World Series. Those things have been around for so long. So many people have done that experience. What is the biggest thing that you think the Omaha Supernovas, just the whole position? One, it showed how much Nebraska is volleyball freaking of the United States.
Yeah.
Everything was here. We have all the records, but just the way the fans grabbed on, the atmosphere, you really feel a part of the game. You, of course, being there not only for still photography, but also video. What was this whole year like with the Supernovas?
So when it was announced, it was probably about this time last year when they announced it. We had the big reveal, like the logo reveal and all that, because they were the first team, I believe, that was announced for the league. So that was pretty big, just being a part of that and being there on that day, and just kind of grew from there, like just doing the media days and like all the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, it's cool that they're in the community too. Like they get a lot of the like volleyball teams in the area involved. So that's something that I think helps them too, because we have support of just the community around you.
See, and that's what I noticed too, is a lot of their games, there was, I think, more volleyball tournaments at the CHI Center in the conventional side.
Yeah.
And that obviously helped to go, hey, come on over, come check it out. These are the future. They would interview girls that were there in the fans. And it was just awesome to listen to those girls, to have something to look up to, and an opportunity beyond Olympics, beyond college, beyond overseas. I mean, those overseas, half of these players have 10 plus years because they're not behind the 8 ball. You got to be a part of the history. You got to be a part of the start of it. Was this even what you were looking forward to? I mean, you just graduated college not too long ago. You graduated high school not too long ago.
Yeah.
You went through COVID. You went through all that of going, man, what's going to go on with my life? And now look, you get to do it. You get to have fun. You get to be out amongst the crowd.
I think it's just like cool because when I remember, like I always wanted to be a part of like starting something. When I first got a job, was like I want to be able to just start something, and that's kind of what the Supernovas allowed us to do. We're a part of history, and like you said earlier, like all these girls look up to them, and it's just like cool to see. Like that was always my favorite part of the job, was like telling those stories of like why they're inspired, and now we've done it for a whole season.
Well, I know, like even like with the WNBA, obviously they're getting some names like your favorite basketball player, Miss Clark, and stuff like that, and people are kind of upset about the pay. But what they don't understand is, to get the pay, you got to have people come to the event.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a coworker today tell me that people honestly thought the WNBA was a charity event.
Which is, that's wrong. Women's sports did better than most of men's this year for the Final Four.
Exactly.
If I was right.
Yeah. And see the growth of just that side of sports, because it's not been the history. It's not been the drive. And it's kind of like, all those interviews I've done all these times, and we talk about how AAU's up, travel ball's up. And now we get to talk about how women's sports, not just volleyball, but basketball. And obviously those things are just growing because people are seeing the excitement behind it and knowing that if you want these ladies to get paid and you want to be that person that what would you say, the advocate for it and go, gosh, I can't believe they're not getting paid. You got to be at these events. You got to show out.
I mean, it's cool to like women's sports. It's not like people like it's cool. Like they're gonna kick your ass, most of them. So I mean, let's just be honest. Like it's kind of just how it is. But I mean, women's sports has taken like even just everywhere, like universally, it's taken a lot of steps. I'd say in the last 5 years.
Now, when you thought of coming out of high school and going to college, what was kind of your first thought when it came to what you wanted to do?
Well, I just told me I could go to college at the because of COVID. Like it
Yeah.
was kind of up in the air because my original plan was go to Lincoln, but it just didn't. Price wise, wasn't my thing. So I went to Iowa Western. Um, it was just the work with sports was kind of the end goal. Like I was doing my internship was like through the arena CHI downtown, so I would record like Creighton games. And one of the years I was there, they had the national championship for volleyball was here, so I was there for that. And then College World Series. So I was already in the sports world, and then after I graduated, I had more time to like focus on that, and I would travel with like I'd go to like Iowa City or like Lincoln and do stuff for ESPN and Big Ten. I just didn't want to like always have to travel for a job. Was like be gone all the time and live out of a hotel and eat food like that. Kind of just I wanted to have something like stable in the area. Was kind of what I was looking for.
If I'm looking for the connections, though, where did all those start for you? Because there's a lot of people, we've had a couple on the show that are always looking to try to find that next level, right? They get through the college, obviously Iowa Western, great community college that offers opportunity. They have great teams that are performing at high levels, so you're able to record whether it's football, basketball, softball, baseball. You can go do that for them. But what makes it to where you can like start turning that wheel to, like you said, you did some Big Ten, some how did that all roll for you?
So when I was in high school, they had the POV Media Academy. So through that, you would be just like you do like high school events, so like anything, like all the time. So from there, I would meet people just like in the community about it, and then from there in college, is mostly my professors would like new people, and then from that, those people you met through there, you meet people through that, which led you, just
Continued the connection from game to game or match to match and making your Rolodex, right?
yeah.
And obviously having your family support, like you said, it's not easy because you have to grind some of those harder events or the ones where you got to give up time. What's been probably your hardest thing these past I mean, you've been with me for a year, you've been with
hmm
Hurrdat for a year now, right? Pretty
Yeah.
close.
Year I started last March.
Oh man, time just flies.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest thing that you think in your transition to a going from different sports and different events, non-Hurrdat and now with Hurrdat?
So I think my like hardest thing was when I was in college, you use like the big TV cameras. So like those are always over the shoulder and like you have to do everything manually. I had to learn to like use like a smaller camera, which like you think it's a lot easier, but it's not because there's more settings on the camera. So I'm still learning that, but like I've had people like teach me how to like use like the lens, like different lenses and what they mean, like different stuff with that. I think that was my hardest part. And then I don't really know what else. I mean, like
What were you more photography or video back in the day?
I was video, and
Okay.
then I did podcasts in college as just like a side thing, just because you always need to know more than one skill. And I mean, I listen to podcasts all the time, so it's like, why not learn how to
I
make
I,
a podcast?
I think it kind of blows some people's mind because they see people's podcasts and they think that, oh, they're just gonna go on forever. But I mean, I know I'm a limited show that's every week,
hmm
all year round. You got some that are just particular to a Nebraska football, and
Yeah.
they only do it during their prime time. What has that changed for you, and what do you even think of like a podcast that could go all year round? Is it? I mean, I think for me, it's depending on the sports time and trying to get the athletes. That's probably my hardest part of going.
Yeah.
I got to get on their page, but it doesn't match our time. It doesn't match. Those are like the struggles I think I run into sometimes.
Well, a podcast isn't just you talking to your friends. That's something I think people need to realize is you're not just talking to your friends. Like you have to, like they're like planning. You have to set up a guest. You have to set up the time to record, and then that's just the recording. Then there's the editing, And depending on like certain shows, like need more editing than others. Certain like you need different aspects like deliverables for certain shows that a different show needs. Like they all like there's ways you can make it easier for yourself, obviously, but it's not like you're not just gonna like figure it out right off the bat.
Yeah, I got a couple friends. I'm actually wearing their hat, and they started a podcast, and I'm watching it from the outside in, right? I'm a part of it, I'm helping, but the one thing that I really appreciated of my friend was he never called and asked for all the helpful hints. He was like,
Hmm.
I got to figure it out. So they're slowly learning the things that I remember my first year when I had to do everything and doing it all. It was just the audio was hard enough. I couldn't imagine having to do audio and try to get the video out. What do you think is your hardest part when it comes to it? Is it easier to do the audio or is it easier to do just the video?
I've always found out that audio for me is easier. I think it's because I had a class in college on it, so it kind of teaches you the ins and out. Um, Video is always hard just because one minor thing can take a while to fix. Like if you got one thing in there that like is not right, then it's gonna take you a while to fix it. It's just the way the show is. Like so, like when people do podcasts, if you do audio first, that's fine. But we live in a day and age where social media is a thing, and people want to see your faces and your reactions. So the clips help. Finding clips sometimes is hard too.
See, and so now because of her dad, I've obviously taken a lot more role of what I do. I do the beef stuff, the Omaha beef. So I appreciate her dad. I appreciate the Omaha beef. And my thing is fan interaction.
Hmm.
And you think that you're capturing everything, but there's just sometimes where you're like, man, I'm not seeing what I want in the vision. When you get in those situations, whether it's a podcast or even your events, whether it's supernovas, like how do you really prepare yourself to find what you want to find?
I don't prepare myself when I go to events. Like I have like a baseline idea of what I want to do, but if you're trying to plan out what you want for a whole like video, like that's gonna work in certain things. But like if it's a live event, like things are gonna change, things are gonna happen. Like you have to just be able to kind of think on the fly,
Yeah.
and that's kind of something I had to learn too, just with like the creative freedom I have at Hurrdat. Like I had that kind of like in college, but like it was restricted because of COVID.
Yeah.
And in high school, it was you can do this, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because you have to go through like the district, you have to ask people for permission, you have to get permission from like parents and stuff like that. So it's like we have freedom to do like they trust us with the vision that we have.
Yeah. What I really like is you guys put together great videos for intros, for even just a player. I mean, you guys have created, especially for the supernovas, you guys created every player personal thing. So if they score, you see their video with the smoke
Uh huh.
and just that intro. But people don't understand the time it takes to create these things. What do you think is your longest process through, let's just say, a supernovas volleyball game? What's your hardest process that you've had to go through and maybe time consuming? Because I think sometimes when you wrap up everything that we do, whether it's podcasts, whether it's sports casting, the time is something that people don't understand or know that we don't get back.
I think probably the hardest thing would be Kyle's job is the court chronicles because like those are minute to 3 minutes probably is how he bases those off of. But so he's had twice this season where he's had to flip them overnight because they would have game break game at
Yeah.
home. So those are hard because you're going through footage from so say like they're gone for like 2 weeks. They're not here. There's anywhere from like 2 to 6 games. And he's got to find moments from every single game to put into like a hype reel before the game. And then he tells a story through that everyone sees before the game. That's like something like I mean,
I remember when he told me about the very first one he did, and it was like, and then we had him as a guest, Kyle Byers, and he was talking about, I think, what was it? The first game was 6 video, 9 still, and you guys had like gobs of gigs of stuff that he had to go
oh
through.
yeah, he has terabytes of footage he probably goes through.
And I was thinking, I'm like, how could you do this and get it in a time ordinance? But of course, your cameras you got to make sure are correct, time stamped.
Hmm.
your video is correct time stamped. Everything is so then when you put it in the computer and you put it all together, you're able to time it all right. But even that doesn't make it perfect because you still have to. I mean, I'm taking from my Insta 360 and I'm taking the iPhone image and I'm trying to find the right time to break it from one to the other. I couldn't imagine doing 700 gigabytes of just one game, 3 minutes, and that's what you got to put it at.
So I think for Supernovas, our minimum is 3 shooters. And that's just the game. I'm also in charge of, I do a lot of the press conferences, so I'm in charge of like setting those up, helping out with those. And sometimes, I mean, that's like 10 minutes, but that's also 10 minutes of writing down stuff you could use from both teams. So 20-ish minutes just press conference, and then you have the whole game. And we start recording an hour before game starts, probably. Like we were there 3 hours before the first game, I think. And yeah, there was like 6 of us shooting. No, there's like 7 actually. Because we had some other people there.
Now, as far as your guys' group, the group is obviously sometimes some brought in and sometimes your core group. How do you guys kind of get the people that you guys bring in to fill the same vision that you guys are going for?
I think with what's been nice with like us is we're all downstairs now. Like all of us are all downstairs. Like, so it's for the video team, it'd be me, Kyle, Colin, Sam, Sasha helps out. And then like, depending on what events are, we have contractors for like high school stuff. And then we have, Michael and Jared for some Supernova stuff. So like all of us kind of usually have like a meeting beforehand. Like this is your job. This is your job. Get this gameplay. You're in the stands getting footage, like fan footage. You're going to be here for the intro. You're going to be like when they come in, come out, you're here. So they all kind of lines up. And that's just like sometimes for the beginning of the game. Then you have the game itself. Then you have after the game. And then you do it again for sometimes even like the next day for a different, like it's day by day.
You got to think, I mean, we got 2 games. Now, are you guys going to do both games? I mean, this is huge for Omaha, right? I think this is putting Omaha on the map. You got both semis and then you got the championship. So you guys got to probably cover both, right? Or just the Supernovas?
It's both because it's a professional vault. It's just the whole thing in itself. It's like we have certain deliverables for certain things for every game. But like we'll help like Supernovas with their social media stuff. But like I'm in charge of the press conferences for all 3 of those games.
Man, and just think I mean, if the Omaha Supernovas pull this off, your history of what you were a part of, small cog in the wheel, was it anything that you ever thought when you first signed your deal last year to work for Hurrdat?
I didn't even know what I'd be doing in a year when I started Hurrdat. I'm being honest, like, because my job is like changed so much since I started. Like I've kind of just, I mean, I can do everything. Like if you need me to help with something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
If I don't know it, like I'm gonna figure it out. But that's just the way media is. You just have to figure it out. Like people are gonna help you along the way, like give you advice, but like at the end of the day, you have to kind of figure it out.
Who's been your biggest helpful on the figuring it out?
I'd say everybody downstairs has contributed in one way or another. Like obviously Sasha and Chris like interviewed me, so they got me here.
Yeah.
But then like I talked to Kyle, like me and Kyle on a lot of shoots together. I learned a lot from him. I learned editing and other things from like Sam and Colin. I don't interview people, but if I ever have to, I know like I can do it. I don't want to. I don't mind being in front of the camera if it's like laid back stuff, but like if I had to do a professional interview.
So this is why he's normally the producer back on the other side of that wall. But I've wanted to bring him in because not only just knowing him, but just the whole connection of the growth. I mean, I feel we've done a good job of constantly, bringing in people that are different. Like that's my biggest thing. I mean, I could bring in the same NBA or look for MLB players only, but like I just think the journeys, the stories is what it's about, and it doesn't have to be. I think our number one watched is Jordy Ball, but right next to her is Will Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And he's not he is nationally known now, but prior to now, he wasn't nationally known when he was on our show.
No, there's a lot of people in Nebraska that don't get like the
They just don't
coverage.
get it. They don't get the coverage that they deserve.
I don't think they started doing like big coverages like that until it was my class because of basketball.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them still
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to. When I had the radio show, I mean, I've talked to Wrightsell, who's down at Alabama, and
Mhm.
obviously he went from doing work at Cal State Fullerton. But when they leave the state, they normally get forgotten unless people like us can keep bringing them back in the limelight of the state.
I think Hurrdat's good at that. Like we're able to like obviously like you're gonna be known in Nebraska, but like more people take notice. I think we're able to tell those stories in a different way than like what everyone else is kind of doing.
Staying connected is the biggest thing. I learned that this last weekend. I had the Omaha Beef game, and one of the guys for there was like, "Hey, Teddy Prohaska's up somewhere with his brother here." Well, I used to coach the Skyhawks, the younger one, his younger brother, but obviously I would see Teddy because he played with my nephew. And I'm looking for him and I don't see him. And this is what we talk about connections and
Mhm.
and I don't see him. But I got a microphone, so I start doing the defensive chants now. That's kind of the hype man that I do besides
Yeah.
the fan interaction. And I let's go beef on defense. But when it's offense, we're all quiet.
Yeah.
Fourth quarter, we're up pretty good. Up here, you hear, let's go beef. Let's go beef. I look at the top opposite side of the stadium, and there's this big, tall guy. You could tell he's wearing a Husker N.
Uh-huh.
I go, that's probably Teddy. He comes down the field after the game, and you just watch these kids attach themselves to these bigger than life athletes, even at a college level. And I think I watched them also do Nebraska did a camp at Norris, and all the players were there.
That's when Rayola and them were down here, right?
Yeah. And just seeing what they do to a community to give these kids an idea of what they could do, what they want to do. And it just amazes me because I mean the Prohaskas they're always saying hi. They're so humble. And I think that's sometimes what people forget is how these kids are these athletes, but they're still humble. They're still if they're taught right, they're still humble and they're not getting the coverage that they get. If it is, I mean, all that you ever heard about Teddy is about his injury instead of talking about this is a 6'8" guy trying to get down in an offensive stance. Go try it.
Yeah.
Go try it multiple times.
Yeah.
It's like those stories of not I hopefully we'll have them this summer. That's our goal. But when we think about your transition, Brandon, we'll talk about a little bit of this. This is something that people don't understand is transitioning from sports to what you want to do.
Mhm.
What all do you remember when you went from playing sports to being the guy at Papillion La Vista Media and covering the sports?
So I had been playing basketball probably since I was ever like 5. Like basketball was always just like my thing. I love basketball. I never played football, played baseball. I was always in like a weird age group where I was like playing younger. So just like I never had to like progress. So basketball was always my thing. I did junior titans and I did, like all that stuff till 8th grade and then you go into high school. So it was my junior year and couldn't do media academy because like my mom couldn't drive me every single day
Yeah.
and no one else at Papio South was going there, so I couldn't like ride with him every day. So it was my junior year, and I had to make a decision like, am I going to still play basketball or am I going to do media with what I want to do with it the rest of my life? So the day of tryouts, I quit basketball. Probably wasn't the best time to quit because I went through everything up until tryouts, and then I started doing media, which then like back then I think it was probably just like I was like, is this the right idea? But like looking back on it now, it was the right choice because I like got my foundation in media. I met people. Then I went to Iowa Western, made connections through there. There's some guys from Papio South that went there, so I could do stuff with them through that. And then now,
And I think you brought up a great point there of the transition of going, man, this is scary. Am I making the right? I've lived, ate, drink, everything basketball. Now I'm going to go cover it. Now, where you're at today, you've obviously done Creighton, you've done UNO, you guys have covered some big basketball tournaments. Now, what does it mean to even be a part of those, knowing that had you continued, and let's say you went to college, but maybe you didn't even play. those opportunities might not have been there where you get to see the big stage. What was that like when you first got to go out there?
So for me, like growing up, I always liked Creighton. Like that was always just like Creighton basketball. I'd go to like their camps in the summer. So like it was kind of just like when they have it at Pappy
Yeah.
South, where you can it's like a kids camp.
Yes.
So like you had coaches there, and like like the players would be your coach for like 4 days, and you just like do all stuff like that. And so when I got to Mecca and I did my first Creighton game, I kind of like was like a little like teary eyed because it was like, okay, like I grew up watching them, grew up doing this, and then now like I'm here like on the floor, like close to the game, and then now it's like I go to like the press conferences, like I talk to like the players, like I know some of the players. It's kind of just like I underplay it a lot because like I don't know. Sometimes
It's what we do,
it's
right?
what we do. And like I just had this conversation with one of my friend's parents the other day actually, and they're like I understand like how cool my job is, but like some days where it's just like that's like I sometimes don't fully grasp it. I don't think. I don't still think it's like real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, what I'm especially enjoying now is introducing some of the people I get to meet to not just family members, but friends and their kids. And they get to see, man, like, I mean, knowing that they get to come down after a game for the Omaha Beef and you get to go on the field for 20 minutes and you can go talk to Tommy Armstrong and get an autograph. And you could be so close, but sometimes feel so far away because you're like, this ain't possible. This ain't possible.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I walk around. I got my Beef jersey this week. That was pretty cool. DJ K Dub. I chose
dope.
Kendall's number 48. I chose Junior's number. And when you're on the sideline, even the fans feel like you're a part of what's going on.
One of my buddies works at Nebraska. He's like an intern there, and it's funny. He has a picture on his Instagram, and he's signing autographs.
Not to that point yet, but I get it. Like people,
it's one of those things where like I go to baseball games, like have a ball, I'm like, well, I'm not on the team, or like a hockey at UNO, like have a puck. I was like, well, I don't have access to the pucks. I just have a badge that lets me go on the ice in the locker room or like in the dugout kind of thing. Where I don't know, and it's just kind of cool. Like just I have a lot of friends that are in the media space too, and we kind of all like bounce off each other. So it's kind of just like, I'd say like, especially Hurrdat, like they're kind of like a family.
Oh yeah. And that's what I've enjoyed is they're a family that is not afraid to let you know of things we could do better. They're a family that's going to give us the open realm to be able to fail. And I don't mean in a bad way, but like maybe not post this way or maybe not do this way. But they give you an opportunity to meet people that you're like, what? You got to meet Coach McDermott and just talk. You didn't even have to ask him about basketball. Hey, how's your day going, Coach?
Yeah, it's one of the that's what it is too. Because there's like times where like obviously like I've like have met people like athletes and stuff like that's like not like out of the ordinary for me. But like I met Kirk Ferentz one time, like just at an event, like just got to say hi to him. And I was just like, I just talked to the Iowa head coach. Like that's the only coach I've ever known my whole life. Like I don't. Like,
it's not like Nebraska where we've had so many, and no matter what Iowa's done, he's still a legend, and he's someone that is known.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is because everybody gives crap about trophies, this and that, but the longevity to be able to do what he does and has done,
yeah,
is what makes him who he is. I mean. You think of a Tom Osborne, and even now, I mean, I would still be just as giddy. I remember the first time I don't know if you've had this yet, but I got to interview Eric Strickland. Okay. And I say that name because when I was a kid, I would play NBA Live. And I was that kid that would put Nebraska does not have a great basketball record when it comes to the NBA. Okay. They just don't have a lot of people.
No.
But when they got him, I made sure he was on my team every single game that I would play. I'd roll him over. And then to interview him, I'm like, is this surreal? Is this really happening that this is a game I played. This is something that I always dreamed of, and now I get to just chop it up with them. And have you had that moment yet? I mean, you're a gamer. You gotta.
I don't I see it as a job. I mean, that sounds like
Well, I mean, it was a job until
Yeah.
the end. Then at the end, I brought it up. Like you got to sometimes break yourself and go, man, I could be a kid again. Like,
I think probably if I meet I mean, I don't really know. I think I have to be like an NFL player because I mean, some of these I just at the end of the day, these guys they're also the same age as me, so it's like okay, I kind of see you as the same age as me, kind of thing.
I get you there.
So
That is the difference. Because for me, it's and then of course, like your family. When you have your family talk to you and they hear about some of your things, what does that feel like when they're like interested in what you do? Because not everybody asks their family what they really do. Sometimes they'll go, "How's work going?" That's it, right?
That's usually
But if they saw or know that you posted something, you were just at let's just say Minnesota, they'll be like, "Hey, how was Minnesota? How was that? How does that change in your life?"
Well, I think it all started the support of my family. My family supported me all the time. They probably were a little okay, well, you should still maybe play basketball. But I was like, it just doesn't long term wise, it wasn't smart. But I also have really supportive friends growing in high school and college, just they'll genuinely ask they'll be like, yo, it's cool, you met so and so. Or you talked to this person so and so kind of thing. And they don't ever ask for anything. They don't ever be like, hey, can you somehow get me down to meet this person?
That's what I like.
And it's just because I wouldn't do it anyway. I'm gonna work my way into doing it regardless. It's just kind of
there's numbers in here of some players and athletes that people want or would want.
Yeah.
This is locked. There's no sharing of, because for me, that's what I have to do. I have to try to get a number. I have to try to reach out physically. DMs work, but I don't know about your guys' success on your guys' side, but I don't feel DMs is always the way to go with athletes. They're receptive sometimes, but
most
of
them are turned off. Most of them which makes sense based on whatever certain sport it is.
Yes.
Just their DMs are probably off, or it's to friends only kind of thing.
Where they don't even get noticed, even though it hits their DM, and you're like, "Sweet, I hit the DM. I got a message sent out," but it doesn't mean they read it.
No.
And then you got family members or friends that go on the other side. Have you had anybody try to get you to get them into a game or something that you're like, I have no control over what happens here?
I don't know. I haven't really had people ask me stuff out of the blue for that.
See, and that's good.
And if I'm able to get tickets to someone, I usually will for special occasions if I'm able to. But it's I don't really have friends that just ask for that stuff. I don't have family members that ask for that stuff.
Yeah,
that's just kind of just.
Do you have an end goal that you were going for when you were thinking of your career that you're doing? Is there something if you could do this, whether it be the commentator of an NFL Super Bowl, was there anything that you have? Obviously, that's not it because you're behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But there's got to be something that if you could do that event or that thing, that would just be your limelight.
So I was trying to set my goals as attainable, realistic goals. Is because then you make progress, go towards the next one. So my goal before I got to Hurrdat was to do March Madness.
Okay.
So now I want to do an NBA or NFL game. Just take pictures. That's kind of just something even if it's a training camp or a regular camp, that's something I'd want to do. But that's really, I mean, I don't really try and I obviously set goals and have standards for myself, but I don't try, because if you don't if your goals aren't going to be attainable, then there's no you need to have attainable goals to get to the end goal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think. I mean, you said cover NFL, NBA. I mean, what higher could you go than that?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think the only thing higher that could be higher than that is if you're trying to do the World Cup that's about to come up.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that going to a World Cup game, let alone anything, is a goal of mine, because how worldwide that event is. Not cover or anything, just go watch it.
Yeah.
Olympics. I like Olympics, but to actually physically cover it, I don't think that's like. And obviously, they're getting more sports, more like sports
Yeah.
instead of just the events.
The
The
traditional old Olympic events.
Yes. So it's like one of those where, like, I don't know, maybe someday, but right now, I mean, the events doesn't really attract me to want to go cover it, even though I like covering any sport or any event. But that's someone's goal, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I got to get to the Olympics. I think NFL would be good. Husker game would be good for me, but there's so many that do it. So it's like, is it?
But that doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter though, because like it's still like something like with me, it was like I did Creighton,
Yeah.
and that was like okay, that was like a big thing. Like even Iowa Western football game,
Yeah.
like that was big. Like that's still something. Like sure it was for a class, but they're pretty nationally known. That's still something you get to do. Like
I like the way you're putting it because obviously I'm not downgrading at all, but it's like, man, for me to do it, I don't know. One, I don't want to ask because there's so many people. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
it's just like everyone has different goals, and like with me, like work, it's just like get better every week is different for me, which I honestly like that every week is different. That's why like when I went to Hurrdat, I wanted to be a part of like building something. Okay, I've done a certain part of that, and I wanted my weeks to be different because I didn't want like a regular desk job.
You don't want the
That
9 to
I
5.
had never. I've always when I was a kid, I wanted to work in the movies. Then I went to the Omaha Film Festival and they figured out what that was. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not. That's a little too much. That's that's. And I'm in Omaha. I got to be realistic here. So I was like, okay, sports, movies, put together sports media. That's kind of just how I came to do it, honestly.
Who was someone that you kind of looked up to in the sports media that might have kind of also helped gear some of that for you? Anybody?
I think my inspirations was like growing up with Steven Spielberg movies, and then Cole Bennett, who does like music videos, was someone I always looked up to.
Okay, I like what you're saying there because then you can mix the cinematic of a
Mhm.
movie with the music video where it's changing scenes
Yep.
more rapid than a movie. And when you think of just your ideal, if you could have covered one thing that you haven't, what would the next thing be for you? If there was a team and there was a place, what would the next goal be? So then if maybe if Chris knows someone, he might hear
Yeah.
this and go, I'm gonna get this dude to do his thing.
So like I don't think it's even like a game. I think I just want to go to just like take picture of like a training camp
Okay.
because you can't go from training camp to pro. Like you gotta, like start training camp,
Yeah.
work your way to a game, and then go from there. Like I also am gonna start trying doing concerts too, just
Okay.
for something that I think it'd be different to do.
Now I have a friend, and I learned a lot because we did an episode. Actually, the one episode that I did with my buddy's podcast, and he's from Florida. He does the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
So he does their team, but he also does concerts. And here's one thing that I didn't know or understand: some of them will let you do only 5 songs.
Mhm.
Now he did Wu-Tang, and that's pretty good, right? And you're thinking he's gonna get everything. But what Wu-Tang does is they'll bring out one, do part of the song, bring out another, do another part of a song. So your 5 songs is only 5 people.
Yeah.
It's not the whole crew. Some of those rules and expectations, what is probably one of the hardest things that you've had to learn when it comes to a rule or regulation to a social media of what you do? When it comes to an event, what's the hardest thing that you've had to do?
I think we should be able to do video at more events, but that's just me. There's
Yeah.
certain events that you can't do video at, but
At all?
nope. I think, I mean, I get it. That's your brand, but if you want that brand to get bigger, I think some places should allow you to do video for certain events. Which I mean, sometimes there's exceptions to things, and things are able to change, and you do different things. But there's like that video is telling a story, but sometimes you're not because everyone's like Kyle has a vision, I have a vision, Sam has a vision, Colin has a vision, Sasha has a vision. Like everyone's thing is different. That's what like makes it work because you work together and then you make it one coherent thing.
Yeah, I like that part of where It's not the same. You're going to get a little bit of flavor of multiple
Mm-hmm.
that comes together. And I think that's sometimes production parts issue sometimes is because they're so afraid to have that wide open thought of that the vision doesn't have to all match Kyle's vision.
Yeah.
Not you guys, but just in general.
Yeah.
I think what you guys put together as a cohesive group is understanding that there's a lot of creativity. And that's why I even told you I know most people when they have a podcast or if they do their own social stuff, like they're on it like wolves, and I could be doing it wrong. I'm not saying I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, but my number one thing I've always told you is I want to see what you do.
Yeah.
You get the creative mind. And when you came to Hurrdat and you get this open book of creativeness, how did that differ from your experience? Obviously, you said when you went from high school to college, you kind of got a little more openness, and now you went from college to the open world. What do you think was the best part of that part?
So when I got to Hurrdat, like they said, like you can like, like in like the construct, like you can do like what you want, and like it took me probably 8 months to like actually like can I actually do this because like I was so used to like I was rather I was at the time there. It was very much TV based, so my stuff became like news packages, but I didn't even like think it was because it was like that's just engraved in me. So it took me a while to like break that and just do it differently than what like your establishing shot, wide shot, do your thirds. Okay, now you have to tell a story. Make sure you end with this. That's what it is. I'm able to tell stories differently, and like we all like sit down. Like I'll like sit down with everybody and like they'll like tell me like what you can do better with this. You like this because like when I started, I was just doing live events at the bar and podcast, and then I'd do photo and video for stuff like when no one was else able to. And then about November-ish, maybe a little bit earlier, I started doing more photo and video with podcast. And then now I just do podcast with photo video and then live events at the bars. Like I'm a backup person for that. So like you have to like work your way up. And I understood that. I think some kids don't understand that and it kind of pisses me off.
See, and that's what I asked. Like, I'm not afraid to ask. For someone like myself, does it make you, maybe not yourself, but does it make you upset because I didn't go to school for what you've done or what you've learned?
No, because I see kids that are in high school now that are leaps and bounds ahead of where I am.
I gotcha.
And because with social media and like stuff, most of those people like they don't go to college, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to like have a degree. You can learn it your
That
own
was like
way.
my scary thing on radio. And I'm grateful for the radio bit,
Yeah.
but I'm also, like you said, I love the creativeness that I could be here and I don't have to, oh, it's break time. We're out right now. Oh, you're back in. You got to come back in with a back end. Oh, you come back out.
Yeah.
There's nothing scripted. I know I've had people. I just had someone recently. Hey, you could interview this guy. Hey, I got some questions to ask. Okay, but I don't know what I'll get to because I don't have no papers here.
Yeah.
I love much rather the flow to be relaxed because I'm not a statistic guy. I love stats. But everybody talks about stats. You go watch ESPN all you want, get all the stats you want. They'll break it down to the calf muscle you got of what it can do. Me, I like okay, how do we get to where you're at? How do we become who you are? How do we get to what you're doing instead of, let me think. I'm going to script this out because your response might not be, and but then when I try to read script, I'm on the opposite side. I suck at reading script.
Scripts are hard.
I hate reading scripts.
I remember when we had to do like a teleprompter thing in college.
Ooh. See, the only thing I experienced on that part was I did at Omaha, they had the career center back. And I know I'm dating myself, but I graduated in 2000. But we had the career center. You went for 1 year, you got a third of HTML, which you probably have no idea how to write HTML.
Nope.
We did that. The other one was in a studio for video.
Yep.
No Name Productions is what we called it. And then we had radio. And every one of it was, like you said, it was learning just to the T exactly what you're supposed to do instead of here's a creative mind. see how you could get from A to B. And then we had scripts, and I'm sitting there. I don't know what it is. I feel like I have to add to it. I don't have to,
Yeah.
but I have that such feeling. And even, I don't know about you and how many of your self recordings you do, but I have my wife going, "Why did it take you 5 recordings to get that done?" I go, "'Cause I thought of something else to add to it." And then
Yeah.
I thought, how do you know when to stop adding? How do you know when to I don't know. That's probably some of my stuff that I gotta do better.
It's just learning like the flow of what you like, how you are. Like I did the Iowa Western podcast, and that took me a while to learn how to like do the flow with that, because that was like a informational. It was like an informational show. Like it wasn't like, I wouldn't say there's like freedom to it. Like no disrespect to that. Like I think like there's just, you have like, you're interviewing people about like different product, like different things that the school offers.
Okay.
And so, but I mean, like I learned like the baseline of podcast hosting, and but I would rather have a show where I can just talk about sports and like movies or like random stuff than like you have to ask these questions because this pertains to this about something else.
So through your time, you've obviously seen, I mean, I think probably one of my hardest things was interviewing someone about their product
Mm-hmm.
we had on the show. Nothing on them. It just was hard because I don't know enough about the product to ask the right
You're also
questions.
telling a different story. You're telling the origin of a product, not a person.
Yeah. And I don't know enough about the product, and I felt like I couldn't deliver like I would have wanted to. And I don't know if it's because maybe I should have researched harder on the product than to actually just do what I do when I wing it. People are like, "God, you're good at winging it." Yeah, but there's also points where you look back at yourself and you're like, "What could I have done better? What could I have prepared better?"
Yeah, there's sometimes where like people. I was super hard on myself, like when I used to do the fantasy football show. It'd be like, "Okay, you said this wrong. Like, this keep going." Like, it's like you're gonna mess up. Everyone's gonna mess up. You don't have
Yeah.
to like. You're gonna learn from it, and then you're gonna go on to the next thing. Because if you keep worrying about it, then you're gonna make the same mistake, and then you're not gonna progress forward.
Producing. You're a producer, obviously, for multiple shows.
Hmm.
What's probably the hardest thing for that for you?
Every show has like a different flow, and like some shows, like I love all the shows I work with. Like all the shows I work with are great. I love doing all the shows I do. But there's some of them like they do like each of them have there's separate different things. You have to like make sure that you gear towards that audience. Like I have to like garner towards like 15 different audiences, but there also is like 7 different audiences of just Husker football.
I got what you're saying there. I mean, people think that they're all the same, but the style that they do, I mean, the boys down here do it one way.
Hmm.
Redcast does it a whole nother way.
Yeah.
You have No Block, No Rock. That, I mean, that one, you're obviously not really producing it, but you see
Hmm.
what they have to do. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's more of just talking stuff on it, but I like that style. I like it where it's not just let me drill you with all these things, but talk the fun part of it, the stuff that you just talk with your boys. If you think of a style of a podcast, what's the number one that you really enjoy
If it comes to
yourself?
like sports and movies, it's just like having a conversation around like a table, like with like how like with your boys. Like that's just kind of how I like it. But if it's like a historical true crime type thing, like I like the details and like the things that go along with it.
It's funny that you brought up true crime because I had someone say, "Dude, you've got to try to interview," and not like right here, right now. But he
Uh-huh.
goes, "What have you ever thought of like trying to interview like a serial killer or like maybe the detective of like big cases here?" And I'm like, "No, it's just I'm not saying I can't do it,
Yeah.
but it goes back to the facts.
Yeah.
You got to be able to find ways to pull out the facts that you should know are already out there a little bit, but
Hmm.
he might give you a little bit more of it."
There's like, because like even that's like reporting, like with like Anna Avery and then another Anna and then Marissa, like they have like reporting is a lot of like work. Like there's a lot of prep for that.
I always see him with notepads.
They always, yeah, you have notepads. You're looking at your notepads and you have the stat sheet, and then from the stat sheet, like you're like on the fly with that. Like if you're doing a post game interview, you're just getting the stat sheet. Like you can keep up during the game, obviously,
Yeah.
but like I know like Jacob Padilla, he keeps stats in a book. himself for the
He
game.
does. It is crazy.
And then there's like, like people are taking notes on different things throughout the game. And then you also have to know backstories from like previous games. Like reporting is pretty hard.
If you want to do it really well like they do. I mean, they're constantly pulling things like you're like, how did they remember that? How did they figure that? Obviously, for your side on the video side of recording that stuff, what does it mean to even watch some of these that you have to record as far as your coworkers and how hard they work? Because I think that's also misled sometimes. People don't realize it, and they for sure don't get a lot of credit for the time that they got to do.
I think just like us as a whole, we're very like the minor details matter. Like maybe some people might not see it, but like we will. And like we all like work to like that's why I like love coming to work. I've had jobs that I hated. I hated serving. I hated making pizzas. Like I have a job I could come to every day where I can work with people that I know care for me and my well-being, and we all work together and we have fun. And that's what Hurrdat Sports is. That's kind of just I mean, and we also like you also have to understand in media like things change a lot. Like game times are going to change. Like personnel is going to change. All things are going to change, and you have to be able to kind of like be like on the fly.
I think that's probably one of the hardest parts to get family to understand.
Yeah.
The uncontrollables, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at your uncontrollables so far, what's the hardest to deal with, you think, for yourself?
I mean,
and maybe not deal with, but like where like maybe someone just doesn't understand it as well.
I think just like, things are going to change because like football's outside, baseball, softball's outside, track's outside. Like things are going to change a little bit towards that because of just weather and we can't control that. But I think, like my schedule being different every week, sometimes that kind of can be like a problem. Like my roommates, like they're always like, you're always working like nights or like you're like your hours are weird. I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of the way I like it. Like, I mean, like, okay, like maybe I'm working late one night, but then I have the next day off, or like I'm doing like stuff at home. But then
Yeah.
like, I'll have days like I had days in the summer where like I'm working a couple hours in the morning, the couple hour break, and then I finish out at night. That's just kind of how it is. Like, I mean, to me, it's just kind of how it is. Like things are gonna change.
What I like about everything I do, whether it's lawns, DJing, podcasts, dispatching, none of them are a job, man. And I think it took me so long to get to that point. And I think there's so many people that don't live that way to know what you feel. That you don't feel this is a job, do you? Do you really
No,
feel
I don't really ever feel like I I don't really feel like it's a job. Like there are obviously gonna be times where like, yeah, it's a job.
Yeah.
And like I've kind of you realize that, but like I don't come like dreading going to work. Like I
Yeah.
don't like, man, dang it.
And then you're so young, so people are like, "How could you feel this way already?" And you're like, "This is what I wanted to do."
That's what I always like. I've had a lot of like high school kids and kids in college like reach out to me through various people and like they're asking me like, what do I have to do? Like, what do you want? Like, how do I get to where you want to be? I'm just some regular guy that got lucky. Like, I'm not like
Right place, right time.
that's kind of how it was.
I don't have to tell anybody. I've known DB just as long as I've known Teddy, because Caleb played on Teddy's team at the very beginning, and then he went to the right in between Teddy and my son's age when it came to football. So we were around the junior Skyhawks. So we grew that coach's connection because I coached Kendall's. And then when I did the thing for the radio station he was on, and I ended up winning that, then we kind of grew a little more bond on that part of aspects. And then I go, okay, he's not on this radio no more. Yeah, where's he at? And then I see him, and then they do those Friday morning get-togethers.
Oh, the breakfasts.
Breakfasts, which I liked because that to me was what was connecting me to even the radio sometimes. Because when you go out, you get to see the personality in face, right? So then I would go to that and I go, DB, man, this last year I did 15 shows. He goes, you need to get it over ASAP. And like, it's because the trust that I've gained through him and from him, the trust that he's trying to get me to where I want to be, or be out of my element though too. And that's what I like about everything you guys have provided here through Hurrdat is just there's a lot of out of element things. I never thought I would be into the women's volleyball as I was. Now I know these past couple weeks has been kind of rough. My son's graduated. Lawn season started up. So I haven't been able to do as much Supernova stuff in person, just mainly on the outside. But just the factor of what you've had your hands involved in.
Yeah.
Creighton, like you said, how are you trying to keep those straight to where no one gets confused who Brandon Tiedemann is when it comes to those events? How do you keep yourself straight going, okay, this is what I got? Is there different aspects of each sport that you have to look at for yourself?
Well, like I just come in with an open mind. Like I have a baseline of an idea every time I go to an event. That's just kind of what that works best for me. That might not work best for someone else, but for me, I have a baseline of idea of what I'm going to do. I'm going to go. I'm going to have my eyes out and see if something I like. We say see it, shoot it. Don't take it the wrong way, but like you just do like you just whatever you see around you. Just learn like everything is content. Everything can be a part of a story. You don't know. Like we've had events where like we got B-roll of like a mom and her son kind of thing.
Yes.
And I just know like every day I'm gonna work hard. That's just kind of how I've grown up. Like you have to work for nothing's gonna be handed to you. That's just the way life is. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. That's what happens. It's like it sucks to say, but you're gonna fail, and you can either learn from it or you can cry about it and dwell on it, or you can take what you learn from it, gain advice, and then just go and do what you need to do.
I have one aspect I want to ask you on that one. I like how you said fail. When you started and you were doing all these little small side gigs for them, whether it's the bars, how did you accept that? Because some people aren't the ones that think that's where they got to start. I've been a grinder since day one. My business is me. I didn't get no lump sum of money, and I didn't even realize this part of my life like until I talked to my CPA, and I'm like, man, I just feel like am I where I need to be? And he goes, you understand that you started a business 7 years ago with no money. You're reinvesting every year. That's the same thing of what you're doing, where you started with baseline. And every event you went to and did, you had to constantly rebuild and build, and now you're getting to shoot some of the big ones.
I think I was okay with that personally. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna work my way up. Whether it takes the time it did, whether it takes longer, I'm gonna do it. And then you have to, it's just the way it was. I did the same thing when I was in college. I did the stuff that no one wanted to do. I did the same way when I was doing stuff with ESPN and Big Ten. I was coiling 300-foot XLR cables. And let me tell you, that is not fun at all. Because if you mess up, they will make you redo it. Depending on who is this lead on that site, if he does not like it, he will make you redo it until it is the right way.
It's funny that you say that because I've been a DJ for 10 years and I've wound up wires all my life, right? Or for that. And I did stereos before that. But until show choir and the guy who runs the sound of show choir, McMinnis,
is it McManus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He taught me how to wrap that up, and he never wanted to see it any other way. Where you could just go, and it goes straight.
That's the goal. I've had to do when I was at Iowa City for a game. It's the first time I went to Iowa City. It was when I was with the Big Ten. Their arena is like super old, so your coils you have to wrap. Your cables go under the ground, like through like a tube. You go down through, and like they have like tubes that you come out of. So I had to do. It was an audio cable that was like 50 pounds, and it was 150 feet. But the only way I could pull it was with a string this big. The string was like people were like, if you're listening, it was probably like 1.5 inches string, and you can't like grab your hands on it. It's like a very small string, and you're pulling it, and that's just to like get it to the other end of the court. Then you have to like take it back to the truck at the end of the game. And if you know what, like how Iowa City's arena is? It's one super long hallway. So it's not like I went to Iowa City because I was like, I'm an Iowa fan. I will like for that stuff, I'm not gonna like I'll do football outside. That's fine. But like in the arena, that's hard.
Hardest element you've had to deal with so far? Would it be because some of these arenas can get pretty hot?
CHI has this weird thing where like it's hot, then it gets cold, then it gets hot. I think mine was when I had to be it was my 21st birthday and I was outside at Nebraska and it was like 6 degrees. And I was a runner, so like you're in charge of like you're just like doing like the bitch work.
Yeah.
You just have to, and that's just the way it is.
I need that.
Like-
Okay.
So the guy over on Camp 3, which is like all the way at the top of the stairs, like top of the arena, he needs the water. And like, okay, cool. So you're running from the truck, which is on the opposite side, sideline upstairs. Oh, sorry. He wants to want something else. Come back. Go bring it to him. Kind of like, not everyone is like that. There is just,
But that's the one part that people don't understand. Like the back of the scene sometimes is like I did my first high school tournament.
Mhm.
The amount of movement from downstairs in the media office to up and out on the floor and up above is crazy.
oh yeah.
And then like they'll give you lunch. That was awesome. They'll give you dinner. You know what's not awesome?
Your feet.
Feet. But it's at a time when you're like, if I want to cover this, I got to eat in 2 minutes and get back out there, or else I'm missing what I want to cover.
ESPN does not give you very much food. I don't really care if they say that. I would go like we would be just given like snacks. Like you were just given like a snack throughout like the game. And it's like
Here's some Cheez-Its, bud.
they're like, oh, you want this little bag of Cheez-Its? I know you've been here for like and those are long hours. Those are like you're working like 12 hours some of those games. Like depending on your role, like obviously the higher up you are, you're there when it starts, ends, leave, done, make a lot of money. Like the lower tier you are, it's like you're doing the grunt work, you're there longer, you're doing all the stuff. They have to make sure it's all good, packed on the truck, then you're done. But that's also the way like media days, like those are hard to do because we're packing all of our gear in the studio. So you pack it, you load it, you get there, you unload it, you set it up, and then when you're dead tired and want to go home, you're packing it, loading it, unloading it, putting it back.
Ugh, yeah.
That's what some kids like need to understand. Like this isn't like it's dope. I get to meet all these players and these coaches, see the experience, but like there's gonna be long days where you work in like College World Series. That is a grind.
Yeah.
Like, it is a
And that
long,
weather
long
is
time.
no joke. It's no joke.
Do not get sunburned because you're not gonna have fun for the next 10. Because if it goes to like the game 3, that's what 2 weeks technically of stuff because you have the
opening
the opening ceremony day, then you have
you have Fan Fest one of those days as well.
Yep, and then you have your 2 games a day
Yeah.
minimum, and then sometimes like when you're supposed to have a break, there was a game that had rain, so then you have another game that day,
Yeah.
and then there's
And
like
that's
that.
coming up.
That's a month away now.
What do you think you can change from last year's experience of the College World Series to this year for yourself? Obviously, you're in a whole different position with Hurrdat, but does it change for you?
I don't think it changes because I'll do what needs to be done. Like if I got to go out and try and talk to people, I'll do it. I can't guarantee it's going to be great, but like I'll do it. Like it's just that was also like I used to be like I never liked being in front of the camera. Like I was like super like kind of like shy and in a shell. Like obviously you wouldn't have known that, but like with like camera stuff, like I did not want to be in front of the camera. I did not want to do any of that. But like I went to the NFL draft last year. That was like my first like thing I did. So I already going with my dad. So I was like, hey, I'll work like half a day. I'll spend the rest with my dad. I ended up like interviewing a few people. And I was just like, oh, okay. Haven't done it since because I'm gonna go out on top. Like I'm gonna be like I'm up here.
Ended here.
But like it just needed like it's just stuff like that. Like I don't care about like if it needs to be done, I'll do it. Like
that's the grind, man, and that's obviously things your parents have instilled in you. Before we get out of here, we got obviously the big game tonight, 2 of them, 7 and 9:30 for the semis. Saturday is going to be the final championship. Make sure to get your tickets, omahasupernovas.com. Put in perspective what your schedule is going to be like Wednesday. Do you even know what your schedule?
I can tell you what my schedule will be as of right now. I think Wednesday 4:30 is my call time. I'll probably get there at 4. Is my guess. I'll probably get there at 4. Call time's like 4:30. That's for certain things because I think that'll probably change depending on what your role is of that day. So like I'm the press conference stuff, but it's like I'm still gonna get there early so I can do photography stuff. I'm still trying to learn that
And
So-
continue to grow the craft.
Yeah, because like you can always get better.
Yes,
Like-
sir.
I mean, I've been doing this since I was 16, 17. I'm still learning things to this day. I still have friends that
Dude,
are teaching me different
I am
things.
picking brains every chance I get. Every chance I get. Like, what is better for dark setting? What is better for light setting? I thought being in a gym with a bunch of lights, or even in here, this is light setting. This is called dark setting still.
There's certain gyms that I'm like, all right, because like this, like people that don't take into account, like some places don't like they take media into account to like a certain aspect. Some places don't, which I mean like that's fine. Like you're supposed to adapt and just
Yeah.
figure it out. But like baseball is like hard to shoot. So like say you got like a 7 o'clock baseball game.
Yeah.
You're gonna go through a whole different bunch of settings every time. Like you're gonna have your exposure is gonna get messed with. Like you're gonna have stuff like because then it's gonna be sunny, it's gonna be cloudy, it's gonna be nighttime.
But with big lights,
Yeah.
glares, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you are, and if you're not, you need to get on the boat of the Supernovas. They are going to be down at the CHI tonight. They're the late game. Go check them out. Tickets still available. And then let's cheer them on to bring a championship back to Omaha. As they're in Omaha, it will be amazing feeling if that happens. Brandon, I appreciate not only everything you do for us here at Wired Access Podcast, but your production for Hurrdat is obviously shown the growth of someone that I've known for a while, and just seeing you kind of grow into the Brandon that you are today. I'm grateful for this interview and hope that we continue this journey of you guys watching and taking one bit of piece of information from every interview. There's got to be something your athlete or even you as a parent just wants to go, I could use that, by the experiences of people who have done it, not at this highest level out of every time or to the perfection, as you said, but just experiences. Take it, and we'll catch you next time. Wired Access Podcast. I'm your host, DJ K. Omaha. See you next time.